I'm Jim Kircher. Tonight we're going to talk about life in space. In a bit, an interview with a guy who's searching for signs of alien life forms. But we start with the life that we know is in space because we put it there. Orbiting the Earth on the International Space Station right now are human beings as well as microbes and plant life. The crews on the space station spend a lot of time studying just how well Earthlings, the people, the plants, the microbes, are doing up there. Adapting, changing, suffering, or thriving. There's a lot of scientists with a lot of questions about that. And we visited one who got the chance to get some answers.
This was our view where we got to watch the launch from, so that's the SpaceX Dragon at full zoom on my camera. So
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignited. And we have liftoff.
It was super cool to get something on the space station. Yeah, I actually brought my 5-year-old out when it was up there, and we went out to the park and watched the space station go over our head with the science on there, which was really cool. Yeah.
Southern Illinois University-Edwardsville professor Darron Luesse is fascinated by plants. What stresses them out? What makes them happy? He's particularly interested in two forces that impact early plant growth: light and gravity.
So gravity is really important for plants, especially when they're little. So if you think you put a seed underground, it has a little bit of energy in the seed with it, but...
So he has all these questions. What happens if you do this? What happens if you do that?
And we grow them straight up and down, and then turn the plate on its side, and then they start responding to gravity.
He can do a lot of things in the laboratory: cut off the food supply, turn off the lights. What he can't do is shut off the gravity. So he and a collaborator at Ohio University designed an experiment to send thousands of tiny seeds into space to get them to sprout in the weightlessness of the International Space Station.
When we're sending things to the space station, they grow on little petri dishes. Each plate gets about 800 seeds, between 800 and 1,000 seeds.
Yeah. What do you want to find out?
We want to find out what a plant thinks is happening to it in space.
Well, why do you want to know that?
I want to know it for, I guess, 3 basic reasons.
One is curiosity.
One is definitely curiosity. So if you
NASA doesn't have the time or space on its rockets to simply satisfy the curiosity of random scientists.
All right, come on back. There's more to show you.
NASA does want to know a lot about how plants respond and grow in space without gravity.
NASA wants to know what kind of stress are they under and what can they do to fix it.
Is this because if you're going to Mars, you're going to have a garden on your spaceship?
That's exactly right. So if you're going to have any type of long-term space travel, you're going to need plants for oxygen production and for food.
The foods here.
Let's say you wanted the Mars astronauts to grow and eat bean sprouts. Well, even if they looked and tasted the same, how would we know if the ones growing in space were as nutritious as those grown on Earth? So NASA puts out calls for experiments that can begin to help answer those kinds of questions. And the one proposed by Professor Luesse and Ohio University's Sarah Wyatt was accepted. So they packed up their experiment and, with a couple of grad students, traveled to Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
It was exciting, yeah. We brought all the stuff with us. This is the lab at NASA. We brought all the stuff with us in this big suitcase, and we brought the media that we're going to put in the petri dishes in these bottles. This is the most sterile environment you can imagine. Some of the petri dishes.
All the experiments that go to the space station have to meet exacting size and weight limits.
So there's this, everything is super well worked out with the NASA engineers. So there's a bunch of...
And to be clear here, they weren't really planning to grow anything an astronaut would want to eat. They're growing stuff that only a scientist could love.
This is where we grow all of our plants. So this is what they look like. You can see them, some of their various stages
The
of their life
experiment
cycle.
involves Arabidopsis plants. In our world, it's a weed, but it's one of the most common plants used in research. Small genome, quick life cycle, sort of the fruit fly of plant research. But Professor Luesse didn't need to see how big it would grow on the space station. He just wanted to see what was going on deep inside the cells of the plant, and all he needed for that was to get it to sprout in space.
At 1 minute, 13 seconds after liftoff, the Falcon 9 will reach supersonic.
Away now, station and
The seeds went into space in a dormant state. When they arrived at the space station, they were brought to life and allowed to just begin to sprout. After only 72 hours, the astronauts injected a fixative to stop the growing, then packed them up and sent them home on the next cargo ship back to Earth.
Dragon back on its own after a month at the International Space Station, returning almost 4,000 pounds of critical science experiments, as well as other equipment that will splash down.
We're going to grind up all the plants and extract proteins from some of them and RNA from others. And we're going to then sequence every protein, count everything we have, and compare it to all the proteins that are there, and then compare it to a sample that was identically grown on the ground, and see which genes a plant turns on in space and then converts into proteins. And I think we're going to have the results back sometime probably mid to late May.
Vegetables, cereals.
If you've ever had a garden that didn't go well, you know that when the plants aren't happy, you don't get nearly as much as you want from them. So keeping them happy is pretty important for NASA. When they want to go to Mars, which is going to be probably in the late 2020s or early 2030s, they're going to need some kind of plants growing to make that trip possible.